3 pounds of bacon and
Oh,
cheese.
They market the
salad.
exactly right, Kim. They
Doesn't
market
have-
the salad for gamers. That's what they call it, the Call of Duty
okay.
salad. Yeah.
And there's no gluten in it.
And there's no lettuce.
Very little.
Awesome.
There's zero nutritional value to this right in salad. It's actually just 2 bottles of barbecue sauce and bacon. That's all it is.
All that.
I know.
A little piece of celery, so it's a salad.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
Antagonies.
All right. So last week we read through Proverbs 15. We read through it in the
That's
King
amazing.
James. What? Proverbs 15 or the salad?
The salad.
I thought you were spiritual for a second.
Try again.
I know, right? So last week we read through Proverbs 15 in our familiar and reliable and wonderful King James Bible. I'm not being ironic when I say that, though I realize it might come across that way. But I'd like to read it to you in the New Living Translation. I don't think that the New Living Translation is a comprehensive translation for if you're looking for a formal equivalent for accuracy. The New Living Translation is not the Bible to seek for that. But if you're looking for a dynamic equivalency, something that conveys the ideas, and I think the NLT and the Message do a very good job at kind of unraveling some of the riddles and doing some of the work for you, which again, that's not why the book of Proverbs was entirely written, but it is kind of cool. So I want to read Proverbs 15 again this week, but I'll read it from the NLT for kind of a new take on things. And you can follow along if you like. If you have a Bible app on your phone, you can follow along in NLT. You can follow along in the King James, but I want us to kind of note some of the differences, and it's kind of cool. So Proverbs 15:1. A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge appealing, but the mouth of a fool belches out foolishness.
Ooh.
The Lord is watching everywhere, keeping his eye on both the evil and the good. Gentle words are a tree of life. A deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. I think if I remember correctly, that was a breach in the spirit. Yeah. Only a fool despises a parent's discipline. Whoever learns from correction is wise. There is treasure in the house of the godly, but the earnings of the wicked bring trouble. The lips of the wise give good advice. The heart of a fool has none to give. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but he delights in the prayers of the upright. The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue godliness. Whoever abandons the right path will be severely disciplined. Whoever hates correction will die. Even death and destruction hold no secret from the Lord. How much more does he know the human heart? Mockers hate to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. Oh, man. Church attendance is at an all-time low. Well, Pastor, we were moving on. Verse 13. A glad heart makes a happy face. A broken heart crushes the spirit. A wise person is hungry for knowledge, while the fool feeds on trash. For the despondent, every day brings trouble. For the happy heart, life is a continual feast. Boy, that's good. Better to have little with fear for the Lord than to have great treasure and inner turmoil. A bowl of vegetables with someone you love is better than steak with someone you hate. Interesting.
Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Tomato chip.
You get both. You get vegetables and steak or whatever. Yeah. And interesting. I don't prefer that translation at all for verse 17 because I feel like it conveys the destitution of the bitter herbs at the table, and steak with someone you hate. I don't know the deck. And again, I'm being critical on purpose, I suppose, but I really do prefer the formal translation of this because I think it conveys you're sitting with people where there's strife and contention. You don't have to hate somebody for that to be the case. Then again, it could be relying on a more eclectic text rather than the Masoretic text here. So I don't know. All right, verse 18. We're about halfway through. A hot-tempered person starts fights. A cool-tempered person stops them. A lazy person's way is blocked with briars, but the path of the upright is an open highway. Sensible children bring joy to their father. Foolish children despise their mother. Foolishness brings joy to those with no sense. A sensible person stays on the right path. Plans go wrong for lack of advice. Many advisors bring success. Everyone enjoys a fitting reply. It is wonderful to say the right thing at the right time. The path of life leads upward for the wise. The path of life leads upward for the wise. They leave the grave behind. The Lord tears down the house of the proud, but he protects the property of widows. The Lord detests evil plans, but he delights in pure words. 7 more. Greed brings grief to the whole family, but those who hate bribes will live. The heart of the godly thinks carefully before speaking. The mouth of the wicked overflows with evil words. The Lord is Have I been muted? And nobody even said anything. I think I hit the mute back when we were.
Didn't know who didn't.
And
No, I'm
The
just
same pocket
joking.
with the keys. Huh?
It's a sigh of relief for those. They're probably like adjusting their, what's the old term? Do not attempt to adjust your TV set.
Right.
Right. Yeah. I really wanted to focus on verse 8 as one of a couple verses I wanted to revisit tonight, or visit because we didn't touch them. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to God. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to God. But God delights in the prayers of the upright. Like, you remember when Jesus said, if your brother has something against you, go ahead and assume that you're probably at fault too, maybe a little bit, I don't know. But he said, go and make sure you're friends.
Mhm. Leave your gift at the
Leave
altar.
your gift at the altar. I believe that little is much when God is in it, but I believe that much is little when God's not.
Mhm.
And the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. Now, time out. I'm not saying that a Christian who is struggling with sin is automatically seen as detestable, abominable, and wicked before God. I'm not saying that. I believe they're seen as justified, as his children. And there's a verse for that too. Whoever abandons the right path will be severely disciplined, but whoever hates correction will die, right? So there's discipline for those who stray. Yes, Kim?
Well, that goes along with the previous one about the tender mercies of the wicked. Are
Yes,
cruel,
yes.
you know.
And God in his, the sacrifice of the wicked is detestable to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. And, I don't know, I just got to thinking about how somebody could sacrifice something to the Lord, but it's detestable to him. Hey, you guys, welcome. Somebody could sacrifice something to the Lord, but it's detestable to him. And I think of two figures, both who I think are kind of meant to make us think of the other, is Nadab and Abihu,
Mhm.
the sons of of Aaron.
Mhm.
The sons of Levi, biblically speaking, I guess. They brought a sacrifice to God that I don't even know if it was something that normally wouldn't have been offered. The problem was their hearts and their rebellion. And they offered strange fire before God, something that was unknown, something that they thought was a good idea, but something that God had said was not. And it was abomination, and he killed them. And then Ananias and Sapphira, who I think are pictures of Ananias of Nadab and Abihu. Cain, of course, perfect there.
The Pharisees.
Mm-hmm. Exactly right. And
well, probably before the temple and tabernacle worship was fine-tuned by the giving of the law, just a simple sacrifice was enough. But when God fine-tuned it and said, this is exactly how you're going to do it, that's where the sin came from, because before they didn't know any better, but as they grew and God refined what they were supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it, and they offered, maybe it was just going back to the old ways and just said, well, this is how we did it back when Dad was young, back when we were still in Egypt.
It's a good point.
And we don't know for sure, but there was something that was off. To where it was a strange fire. It wasn't exactly acceptable how Moses and God had instituted it.
That's right.
I was thinking it's like our modern society. They make heroes out of these very wealthy men who give huge sacrifices, saying to help people. But that also puts up a roadblock because they justify themselves and they're not talking to God.
That's a huge point.
Justify themselves by giving these great gifts.
Yep.
And sometimes it's gifts.
Yep.
You could support programs and political efforts right now that you could think you're doing something wonderful. But it's not God's plan. But the world's going to say, oh, well, look how much they gave. They must be a good person. Look how much they gave. The size of sacrifice they made to do that.
The road to hell is paved with altruism.
Yeah. Well, look at when Israel was offering on high places. I mean, it seems like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
God kind of,
Accepted.
it's almost like he almost accepted them.
Yeah. 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 Well, it reminds me of the Samaritans. They set up their place of worship, aside from Jerusalem, right?
Mhm.
But it was almost like a sin of necessity because they wouldn't have been even allowed in Jerusalem, I don't think, right? I mean, I'm just kind of pondering here. I'm certainly no expert. I'm expert enough to know I'm not an expert right now, but like, I don't, and I don't see anything about that being like a terrible grove. I think that they just worked in a different location. It certainly wasn't prescribed. So I look at the mercy of God and how he accommodates human failings. But at the same time, when we say this is good and it's not, I can't expect God to call that good. I can just expect him to add it to the pile of things that he blesses me despite. To wit, in my study of church mergers and things, I'm reading a lot about multi-site churches, and how and even churches that have multiple services in the same building. I'm not saying these should be shut down. Of course not. God seems to be using them, but I maintain, and I think this is pretty much a sticking point for me. I'm pretty firm on this. That if you have like an 8 o'clock service and an 11 o'clock service and a 4 o'clock service, you have 3 churches.
Yes.
I mean, you do. There's no logical way to disagree with that. They might all operate under the same banner with the same pastor. That's okay. J. Frank Norris pastored 2 churches, one in like Michigan and one in Texas, and would travel between the 2. You know what I mean?
Well, some have casual services.
Yes.
Traditional
Yeah,
services.
the one on the corner here,
Yeah.
traditional and contemporary, and again, I'm not saying I'd rather they close, not by any means. God forbid, may it never be. But let's be honest and say we've got 2 different churches. Because there's 2 people who will never know each other's needs, bear each other's burdens, know each other's names, really, all right? You just hear about them. You don't assemble with them at all. We've got different churches. So I bring that up because I say, well, is that something that's abominable to God? I don't think so. But at the same time, I don't want to risk offering up a sacrifice to him or a service to him, if this makes any sense at all so far, that he didn't want. He didn't want. I remember God looking at the Israelites and saying, I don't want this. I never wanted that. All I've ever wanted is your hearts.
Mhm.
You know?
I don't know why I have this in my head. I'm a complete psychopath. It's okay. Forgive me. Well, I was thinking about aging myself too. Remember, you wouldn't remember, but back in the 80s, the whole "We Are the World" thing, where literally you have a room full of dozens and dozens of millionaire and billionaire pop and rock singers getting together to tell all the normal folk to give money to support the poor.
We are
and,
the world.
To give money for the
I've seen the YouTubes.
YouTubes. Nice.
Thanks.
And but so they made this great sacrifice of making this great song. But if they would have just, rather than making that stupid song, with nothing wrong with the song, but well, it's kind of dumb. But anyway, but had they just tithed off all their wealth,
right?
Imagine the good that they could have done by investing that properly into world hunger.
Well, and even the world picks up on this. Remember during COVID, you had the Hebrew girl, Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I don't remember her name, but it's very popular. Gal Gadot. And this gal,
Funny.
I just paused for a fact, just waiting. My wife's like, keep going, Brett. No, but this lady gets up and she starts singing. To apologize for me.
I did.
And she starts singing, imagine all the people. And then it switches over to Kristen Wiig, who's singing in a totally different key. And because they don't have it together, I can't blame them for that. I wouldn't have done any better. Living life with you. And then you get, Chris Evans, imagine there's no crying. And then you get this, and you get all these, whoever they are, right? These stars who have millions, perhaps even billions of dollars. And then the hashtag was, we're all in this together. And I'm sitting there saying, I don't have toilet paper. I'm using crayon wrappers. No, that was gross. That was gross. I'm sorry. That's something that's not fit for church. I'm sorry. But I'm just saying, right? Yeah, there's the apology. But seriously, I'm sitting there saying, I don't have toilet paper. I just went to Hannaford. They're out of toilet paper. I got 4 rolls left. And, we got to give some strict instruction to the kids, And you're sitting there saying, we're all in this together? We are not, in fact, all in this together. And my first world problems, by the way, pale in comparison to the real problems that people have faced during this pandemic. Food shortages. I remember when in March, it was like the 3rd week of March, before COVID was really real, it was getting real. I said, time to order some food. And I ordered some emergency ration, the dehydrated stuff that we'll have to end up starting to eat here in a few years because that'll go bad.
25 years.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. What if we got the discount version? You know what I mean? Good for 6 months. Oh, no.
You got the bucket at Walmart.
Right. And it's just a Home Depot Homer bucket filled with like rice, But sorry, gluten-free. But so, oh yeah, that's true. But don't mock me. But like real problems, and then you have like medicine shortages, and then lately with the baby formula shortage, it's just really easy to say we're all in this together, and the world picks up on that kind of hypocrisy, and even they crucify these celebrities for trying to bridge the gap and saying, hey, we're in this with you, and it was fake. Now, finally bringing that full circle back to verse 8. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but he delights in the prayers of the upright. I think that there have been people who would look at God and say, hey, we're all in this together. I know what it's like to suffer for you. No, you don't. Your idea of suffering is when you run out of gas in your airplane so you can't fly to Turks and Barbados or whatever it is, Turks and Caicos, whatever. I don't know. Clearly, I'm not. But off the backs of the poor, right? That's an abomination. Because then, and by the way, the Pharisees, like Kim so aptly mentioned, they would tithe. And Jesus said, hey, you're doing the right thing by tithing. But don't stop.
Forgot something.
But right.
Don't starve your parents.
Yeah. That's where Jesus used the word Corban, and I learned a lot about the word Corban from Tim Mackey lately. There really isn't a good English translation for it. The best there is it is a gift, but it's just so much deeper than that. You got to listen to the podcast; it's fantastic. But these people would say, "God, this is from me to you, from my heart to yours," and Jesus is like, "You're completely ridiculous right now. You don't even take care of your parents. So let's bring it home. We come to church. We give in the offering. Jesus says, don't stop doing that. But if your heart's not really there, if your mind is somewhere else, if your heart belongs to someone else, that's an abomination to God.
If you're blowing a trumpet.
Exactly right. I've always said that, not always, that's ridiculous. I've begun to say, and I feel like I've always felt, that Bible college at large prepares someone for the ministry, but doesn't prepare them for Christianity. You learn all the ins and outs of ministry. You learn how to lead the music, how to pray the prayers, how to prepare a good alliterated sermon. But when it comes to actually like offering a sacrifice of service and giving and work, you know what I mean? Like they don't teach you that.
Because you're only sleeping on 3 hours a night and wonder why you're in the flesh.
Right. And I don't know. When I looked at verse 8, I was like, we got to go there, because this world is filled with either pastors or Pharisees or celebrities or whatever. Everybody just offering up their good things and say, boy, we're all in this together. But in reality, God says, I don't want any of that. God specifically said, stop rending your garments and start rending your hearts. Remember that in the Old Testament? Rend your hearts and not your garments. You pick away at what's on the inside. Break up the fallow ground. Don't rend your garment. Don't put on a show for me anymore. And I guess this is very apropos for preparing for a coalition, a federation, a grafting, a unification of two churches. Well, we'll be on the receiving end of a church with a lot of momentum and growth and organization. I'm very excited. But their style of worship is very, I don't know how you put it. There are not as many traditional restraints as there are in a traditionally restrained church, right? You know what I mean? So there is more of a social permission to put your hands up in the air when you sing, and I think it's beautiful.
Amen. As long as you were deodorant.
Amen to that, right? I know. But I will say this. Sometimes, what's that, Kim? Oh, I'm just saying sometimes I have seen that and I say, wait a minute, I know you. And I know how you live. And I know that what you're doing here in this church, making what the Bible calls a sacrifice of praise, God hates that. When we stand up there and we go, oh, Jesus, you are so great. You are so wonderful. And we get caught in the moment and we lift our hand. And then you go back to being lazy, carnal, rude. God literally is begging you to stop performing. That's what I love about our church. I think we don't have any performers. And by that, I don't mean we don't have any performing people. No, I mean like performance circus show. And we're going to be married to a church with a culture that presents us with an opportunity to be genuine with our worship or to be fake. Because here we don't have that much opportunity. Either you're singing from all your heart or you're mumbling through the words, but there's not that much of a call to how great thou art. Like if you're singing, I feel like it's because you mean. Usually.
Most people don't want me to sing like that.
Right, it's true.
I'd break the window.
Trust me, they don't want me to sing like that either, but somebody's got to do it. But my thing is like when we've got musicians and there's I forgot what they call it, but it's like, there's a term for it, but it's like an ambiance with music that's created during the worship session. It's not, I don't feel like it's heavy-handed. I feel like it's something that's a little outside of my bubble, so I'm looking forward to enlarging the bubble. But it facilitates an atmosphere, an environment of transcending this plane, which is what worship is supposed to help us do. Transcend where we are to a different plane where God is and connect with Him in worship. I think that's a very appropriate thing. Prayer, by the way, should do that. Kim, sorry.
Well, Eileen and I were talking Sunday, and we have a very comfy little coterie here.
We do, yeah.
And we're being presented with an opportunity to stretch ourselves out of our comfort zone a little bit. That can only be good.
Oh, it's going to be so good. One of the things, oh, sorry.
I have something.
Yeah.
My podcast I've been working on for the last couple of days, outlining my script, talking about, of course, going back to the reference that Jesus said about, you tie the bent in the knees, but, and you swallow camel, but choke on a gnat. And it's going to be about foundations. And that's the important thing. And the problem is no matter what we do, if our foundations aren't solid, it really doesn't matter how well I can speak Hebrew if I've forgotten mercy and grace and love, and so we have to be so careful that we're strengthening our foundation. So even if we are doing the prayer of Jabez and we are literally expanding our chords, if we do this, that if the foundation isn't strong, then there could be great opportunity. If we're not careful, there could become a great hurt. And so we have to make sure that the foundations in all we say, do, act is strong that way. Because otherwise it's just a house of cards. And while this merger could be a great thing, if we're not careful, we do it wrongly, or even just for the wrong reasons, then it could come with great hurt. That's why our foundations are so important. when making decisions, when building a family, when all these things.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be my podcast this week.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. I was thinking about what you said about like these foundations and I'm relating that to anytime there's a marriage. Like when my wife and I got married, there was never any friction whatsoever, and it was just smooth the whole time.
No, that's my marriage.
Yeah, that is your marriage. We're sick of hearing about it. No, I'm joking.
That's how it all starts out. Yeah.
No, there was a lot of friction at the beginning. And what it wasn't even as much of, well, you all have to learn to compromise and everybody gives 100%. They're trite but true. But my point is like, mature people still get hurt feelings, but they don't feel like they have to get over it or bury it down. They know how to address, cope, reflect, talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, this unification of two churches, there are going to be some people who feel like, oh, my ministry's changing, or I might be getting edged out. Not that we want that to happen, but if that happens, there's going to be two choices. One, you can sit there and be hurt and say, oh, nobody likes me. Or you can say, hey, where can I serve?
Someone else can do the dishes.
Right. I'm just saying. But you know what I'm saying,
No.
though?
You don't have to be on the cleaning crew.
Well, and that's another thing, right? I really should have brought that book in. There's so many good quotes in there about what?
Patience.
Oh, I know, but there's so many good quotes about like the DNA of a church and the compliments of each other. And it's one of the coolest quotes said, the church with the facility and the resources does not always have to be, in fact, does not always have to be the lead church. The lead church it often is going to be the church with the growth and momentum and organization. And the organization of New City is actually one of them. I'm so impressed by. And when you said the cleaning team, they just have people like signing up, rotations, everything done decently and in order. And there's a place for like everybody.
I was just talking about that with John.
Oh,
Maybe that'll work out.
It's so cool.
Such a help to us.
Oh, so neat. And that way, no one person feels like they're Atlas, you know, bearing the weight of the kitchen, bearing the weight of the, you know, and you're like, oh, I do everything. Nobody should feel like they're doing everything. Nobody. From the pastor to the whatever, anybody, you know. I realized by stopping at pastor, I'm not just making a self-reference. I'm just saying from anybody to anywhere in the church, nobody should feel like they're doing everything. Sorry, I know I rabbit trailed there a bit, but I think that we're presented with a lot of really cool opportunities to grow and be stretched and to embrace something that is an absolute kingdom win. And the questions that we ask are simply thus: when we want to impact our community and the world, will we do it better alone or better together? There are some churches that can answer in the affirmative to the former, better alone. I don't know that our church is in a position where we can say that we would. In fact, I am 100% certain that we would answer in the latter. We would do this better together. And so that's the idea behind many modern mergers, is they're not done because of surviving. They're done because of thriving. It's no longer, well, we're dying and we need somebody to take us over. A lot of times, two really healthy churches can see that they can do something better together. And so they say, let's join forces. And they do it better together. And it's really cool how often that works out. But I'll try to unsidetrack myself and get back into the proverb. As you know, guys, sometimes when something's on my mind, I gravitate every discussion to that thing, and I try not to do that. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
I was gonna say about the helping each other and feeling like it's all I know all the weight is on whoever. I think it's best in that situation that we need to help each other in order to not cause each other to stumble, giving with there being bitterness and hatred, hate starting to grow towards someone.
Absolutely.
So I think that's
we do need to be helping each other and loving each other. Entirely right. So the reason the conversation kind of went into took an exit from the highway is because I mentioned the possibility of a merger, and that opening up, with the different worship styles, opening up a real opportunity to lift hands to heaven that are less than authentic, or they're authentic in the moment because we get a little chill of excitement, but it doesn't actually describe our real heart of worship toward God. And that's where God said, rend your hearts, not your garments. Nobody wants a show. And
we're to lift holy hands.
That's exactly right. Who shall ascend into the hill of God? He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, and he's not accepting bribes. There's another reference to bribes there. Just wanted to mention this one real quick. Verse 14, a wise person's hungry for knowledge while a fool feeds on trash. I love that paraphrase. I love it, love it, love it. What's that say in the Authorized Version? The heart of him that hath understanding seeketh knowledge, but the mouth of fools feedeth on foolishness. Yeah, that's a pretty good paraphrase. That's the thing, right? The fool feeds on Facebook. You can just alliterate it and call it good. There's a lot of good stuff on Facebook. There's even more bad stuff on Facebook. Twitter is like 2% good, 98% bad. I don't even go on Twitter anymore except when someone messages me. Twitter is a cesspool. I mean, a cesspool. I have a joke here about the earlier reference. Nope. All right. So it's just nasty. And so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm not on Instagram. When Facebook took over Instagram, they applied a lot of the same policies to Facebook, which I'm thankful for because it apparently removed nudity from Instagram. So, yay. But still, yikes, because what passes for clothing these days is So I don't have Instagram.
I do. I just keep it to where I only see people that I want to see.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Yeah. I even got Pinterest off my phone because even Pinterest was. They find a way to get smut on every single platform these days, don't they? Anyways, except for Truth Social, amen. I'm just joking. I don't know anything about Truth Social. I have an account, just don't get it. That's Donald Trump's social media platform. Fools feed on trash. I will just throw this out there. Give a kid a grape first thing in the morning. Ask them if it's sweet. What do you think they'll say? Yes. I think they'll say yes. Give that same child an Oreo cookie covered in chocolate, dipped in ice cream, with some sprinkles on top, and then a little whipped cream. No. I'm just trying to make the sweetest thing possible for the illustration.
Yeah.
And they eat it. Yummy. Is that sweet? Oh, it's so sweet. Now give that child another grape. They won't think it's as sweet, if sweet at all.
Tartness is all people taste.
That's right. I'm of the persuasion they'll mostly taste the tartness. There is both sweet and tart in the Bible. And if you are constantly feeding on trash, then you come before the scriptures and you listen to a pastor who toils. Yeah, this is Michael's little cry session. Wow. Who toils to craft a message from the Bible. And you're like checking your watch. No, and I'm not even really centering this on here. I don't actually see a lot of watch checking. I do more watch checking than anyone else. Sure. I saw that. But like, thanks. But watch checking. Hey, we're not going to be there. We have a fun thing somewhere else. I'm just saying, when our appetites are constantly filled with things that are not the word, guys, I'm not going to lie to you and pretend. That the Bible is just infinitely sweet when we live in a world that's full of sweetness. But you'll remember what David said. He said, the law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul, sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. David took a look at sweet honey, the sweetest thing of their time, and said, the Bible is sweeter than honey. Why did he feel like the Bible was sweeter than honey? Because he wasn't eating trash. You understand what I'm saying? Fools feed on trash. And then when you offer them knowledge and you say, guys, here's the Bible. Guys, can we sit down and talk about the Bible for a half hour? Guys, can we go to church and sing the sweet songs of heaven? And you understand what I'm saying? You tracking with me? And it becomes too much because it's no longer something they want to do. Now it's a burden. I will say that there's also the factor of the glut of availability has certainly lessened the appetite. Growing up for me, when we went out to McDonald's, it was a treat. And now I'm like, let's go to McDonald's, and it's, we just
talked about that tonight, is going out to eat. Even fast food used to be just something fun, treat,
Special.
extra special. And now, if there's not 36 cars in Wendy's drive-thru, you think something's wrong. You know what I mean? Because that's everybody just plans on running to the drive-thru and getting the 5 for $5.
Mm-hmm.
Eating at home is more of a occasion,
Yeah.
than a normal.
I think you're right. The paradigm has shifted, So fools feed on trash. So guys, I just want to encourage you sitting here. Try to make the Bible a daily part of your diet. And if you do like an hour of Facebook or an hour of, I don't know, pinball, TikTok, or Clash Royale or something. Careful. Clash of Clans. Yeah, careful, right? If you do, and good, do it, enjoy it, But I really don't think that humans were meant to be fed a steady diet of trash and then still be expected to live a healthy lifestyle or want healthy things. People don't read a whole lot anymore. What's that? Yeah. People don't read a lot anymore. Why? Because you can just sit there and have it delivered to you with pictures. And I'm not vilifying that. I do that myself. My wife is reading through Lord of the Rings. She's on the 3rd book now. And I'm reading through a book now, too. I'm very excited that I'm actually reading. But I said, hey, babe, do you want to watch Return of the King? We still haven't watched the 3rd one this year. And this last 5 years, I don't know. We've never seen the extended edition. I'm really excited about that.
The ending of the book is much better.
So that's what Amber was saying to me. She's like, the movie doesn't really describe this, that, and the other. And she said, I'm just looking forward to the book. And the book is going to provide her a much richer experience. But guess who's not reading those books? This dude. And you say, oh, yes, Pastor, you're busy. You don't have time. Nah, man, I got time for Pokemon Go. I got time for a book. You know what I'm saying? Let's be real with you. And I just want us to be really careful of our appetites. Because if we say, oh, man, I don't really want to do this. Is it because maybe you're feeding too much on trash and feeding that inner fool? I don't know. Does that make sense? I think we really need to be very careful to watch what we're eating, watch what we're consuming, because it will have an effect on the stuff we actually want to do. Yeah.
Grandma had it right. Can I have a piece of candy or cake before supper? No, because you'll
spoil your appetite. Yep.
Granny knew what she was talking about.
Or ice cream. So last night I had a late night at the shop because we're doing an apprenticeship program, and so I'm kind of doing all the tech, the recording, and the live streaming, and all that. And so I'm there for this math class that Matt's teaching a bunch of guys, and right in the middle of it, I could take off while it's kind of running by itself, and I took the kids out. We were going to go to Witch Spring Hill in Bath. They do hot dogs and ice cream, so I said, I'll get them all a hot dog, and then I'll get them an ice cream after. They stopped doing the hot dogs at 6, and they closed at 9. Well, we got there at like 8, or 7, 7. And she said, oh, yeah, we stopped doing the hot dogs forever ago. No. But we're still doing ice cream. And I'm like, well, we're already here. And I said, all right, kids, I'm going to get you guys the smallest size ice cream, and you're going to be eating it in reverse. You're going to eat your supper after. I am curious how they did with their suppers.
Some of them well.
Some of them not so well.
Very hungry.
Yeah, understandably, because they had the trash.
Like the bumper
What's the ice
sticker
cream
says,
good?
What's that?
life is short,
Life is short.
eat dessert first.
Eat dessert first. Well, that's the thing,
You
right?
never know when you're
My
gonna
great
die.
grandfather did that. He'd eat a piece of pie before his breakfast.
Oh,
Taste the rapture.
And he only
in case the rapture
That's
happened. I like
and he
that.
only lived to be like
Don't know.
98.
Well, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
He was probably a hard worker, though.
Crazy.
I have learned that people can eat whatever they want if they're hard workers. Seriously,
Mhm.
you don't even have to be in shape.
Yeah.
If you're a hard worker, you can eat whatever you want. I'm convinced of it. I mean, as long as it's natural. And,
Farmers lived into their
Farmers,
90s.
exactly
eating
right.
Grease every
Yes.
day.
Literally, I was just about to share an anecdote like that. Pastor Wiley's father lived to be in his 90s, and every day, every morning, he had the same breakfast. He had biscuits and gravy, and he would take the last biscuit and just soak the grease, the bacon grease, out of the cast iron pan, and just eat it, right? And he lived to be like 100 years old, and he wasn't a skinny man by any means. So I don't know, a hard worker. Yeah. 658. Those were the two verses I wanted to share with you. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to God. So guys, if you have issues in your personal spiritual life, if you have issues in your homes, I just want to encourage us as the core of the church to get that stuff right before going to the altar, so to speak, before engaging in the worship of God and the prayer of God and the reading of the Bible. And I don't know, keep short account with God, as somebody once said. And then number 2, wise people, they feed on knowledge. Foolish people feed on trash. You say, what's so appealing about trash? Well, once you've had a lot of trash, you want more.
Fruity Pebble syrup.
Yeah, you posted that picture of syrup that was Fruity Pebble flavored. It's diabetes in a bottle.
Like on
Bright
Calvin
red.
Hobbes,
Yes.
Calvin's favorite breakfast cereal.
Chocolate frosted
Frosted
sugar
sugar
bombs.
Just made out of crushed bugs.
Yeah. The kids love Calvin and Hobbes. They know all about chocolate frosted sugar bombs.
That would be good.
I can't stress enough the importance of a good diet. We should be reading more. We should be working more. And
Your wife's girl was it about the Fruity Pebble syrup.
I am too.
Oh no, it's pretty disgusting. Fruity Pebble
I
syrup.
mean, normal syrup is bad enough.
Right?
Sweet enough without.
I don't even like maple syrup. I don't like the maple.
I'll just say I'll say this and then shut up because it's 7:00 exactly, not 7:15. I'd love to hear what you guys have to think. I try to go to 7:15, but I just want to hear what you have to think. Oh, by the way, we're doing an ice cream social next Wednesday, so everything I said, I forget about that.
It's
Eat
summertime.
Eat supper
Yeah, it is
before you
summertime.
come to church.
That's exactly right.
Celebration.
But I just want to throw this out there, and then I really am going to stop. I really am. Enlightenment had never happened to me on a steady diet of entertainment and gluttony. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't. I have only ever come to the cusp of enlightenment. That is to say, the light at the end of the tunnel of the dark night of the soul. When I'm not indulging in sugar, when I'm getting enough sleep, when I'm not playing video games and watching trash all the time. Does that make sense? You were not designed to experience any sort of real epiphanies or wisdom when you're on a steady diet of trash, intellectual, physical, nutrition. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are a whole body. Your body you're an embodied soul. And the stuff you put in and the way you treat your body and the lack of sleep and the constant influx of screen time, it will prevent your ability to think clearly. And by the way, I don't think it's a coincidence that we have more atheists and agnostics running around. I don't think it's a coincidence that we have more pro-choice activists and LGBTQ activists around when it doesn't stand up against logic. But it doesn't really have to, because logic is lost in the quagmire of entertainment and, well, the lack
Every
of
man
enlightenment.
doing what is right.
Yeah,
So.
exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right.
I have a story once we're offline.
What's that?
I have a story once we're offline.
Well, we're about to go offline.
Okay.
So,
I'll tell it when you.
ta-ta for now. TTFN.